So hello everyone, welcome to today's Meshery build and release meeting, and it happens every second week, or it's a bi-weekly meeting where we discuss about CI plans and mesh releases. So starting off, I mean, we have a tradition to welcome some newcomers. So is there anybody on the call who is joining this particular call for the first time? Uh, I think there is no one, right? Just to reassure. Okay, I hope so. So I think everyone is nobody is new one today. So we can start off with our standing agenda item where we discuss Meshery test plan. So yeah, here is the Meshery test plan where we keep track of all the Meshery tests around different repositories. For example, Meshery and adapters and different adapters and meshkit. So this particular Meshery repo has different workflows that runs different tests for different purpose, right? So all these tests has been written here, and this spreadsheet also tells what's the criteria and the condition where it runs, and the prerequisites, and what is the area under test, and what's the name of the test, right? So and yeah, so I mean, you can just take a look here, and you'll get to know what are the different type of tests that Meshery is running right now. Most of the tests right now that are written here is covering the backend. I mean, covering the Golang tests only. So I think the Meshery UI integration test. Okay, here it is. So I think all the tests we have covered most of the tests here, and we can extend on which Meshery UI end-to-end test, or which Meshery UI integration test, or like for any other other tests. By the way, this is workflow. So I think, Lee, do you want to talk about it? Okay, I think Lee is in some different yeah, he's barely listening us, so let's move ahead. So there's a question like, is the automate?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Avi, you weren't talking to me, were you?
Yeah, I was just asking if you can extend on what this Meshery test plan does.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that particular sheet is, well, it's attempting to capture capture in one place the variety of different workflows that are used across the 37 repos that Meshery has as a project. We use a lot of GitHub Actions, GitHub workflows. The community has created some custom actions, but we also use a bunch of other actions across all these workflows. The workflows are used for a whole bunch of reasons, like a whole bunch. Some of them are doing automated documentation of Meshery's CLI. Some of them are doing automated integration for the like 2 or 3 of the different websites. Actually, there's a bunch of that. There's like, it would actually take a little while to describe it all. And so what this particular sheet is trying to do is collect in a single place the, well, what those workflows are doing. It's not that we have to document every single workflow and what all of those, that's not the primary goal. The primary goal here is the workflows that are running that are most specific to tests, like builds and tests, whether those are unit tests or integration tests or functional tests, like end-to-end tests. What those are, sort of when they run, what coverage they offer. And the goal of writing that down here is to come back and then do a little bit of an analysis and answer questions like, where do we have gaps? Are we running some things 15 times over? and other things only once, or like it's to come back and be able to understand just that, understand what's running and where, how are we intelligently reusing. There are a number of workflows that are core workflows or that are reused across many other workflows, which is great. But which ones are those? And that's the collective reasoning behind why we're putting time into this. And right now, there isn't any individual that is trying to answer those particular questions. I think the single top most important question is, what aren't we testing? And so at least from an end-to-end perspective, and then working backwards, would say from end to end, would say are there integration tests or unit tests that we don't have coverage for? Certainly there are unit tests we don't have coverage for in different projects, but if you were to go merge a pull request to Meshkit or to the Meshery operator, to mesh sync, how are those tested or aren't they? Questions like that. So getting at those answers and then trying to figure out, well, in that case, what can we do? Well, for the Meshery operator, we can spin up a Kubernetes cluster in the workflow, which we do in many cases already, and then deploy the operator, which we do in many cases already. And then, I don't know, we should be able to see some mesh sync data back, or like some of these things, they're well taken care of, and we have a lot of prior art for. But we don't have anyone championing this, sort of identifying what we're missing and what we need to do. So this is so this is a good call for those that are on the call. If this is something you think you can help with, please do. And it sort of starts with just writing down what we have and identifying what we don't have.
Yeah. So people who might be interested, they can put their name in the meeting minutes. And moving ahead, the second item is again failing Meshery UI end-to-end tests, as well as integration as well as UI end-to-end tests. Both are failing consistently for a long time, and we barely have found any reason for it. So first of all, we have to see like what's the cause of the failure, and probably look out for that and fix that problem. So first is the life cycle. This is the life cycle page, which is soon to be deprecated by us, and it is just pinging and submitting console and Istio adapter. So it was behaving fine. Okay, so yeah, so that was it. So I mean, so it is expecting some element, it is expecting a data chip, but it is not able to find that data chip, and that's why it is throwing that error, which it should as well. So that's the reason of failure. So probably we may have made some changes around this interface, and we forget to make the changes in the test. It seems like that.
Azan Hawk, he might have made some changes there recently. He's been working on ad hoc provisioning and deprovisioning of Meshery adapters. It might have been a change.
Yeah. Okay. But he's not on the call just now, but
I'll ping him.
Yeah. And the second one is, I think it's a user preference page. So user preferences, out of 6, right? Out of 6, 2 of them are passing and 4 of them are failing. And all the 4 are from the analytics and improvement department. So I think we might have some changes in the user page as well. As far as I remember, we have moved to Meshery cloud pages and all. And it may be the reason that the changes that has been made in the UI interface hasn't been propagated to the Meshery UI tests, and that's the reason for failure here. Right. if we look into the particular logs, then it looks like it is waiting for some element. Retry that cy dot wait. So it is waiting for this post user stats request, and it just waited for it for 5 seconds, and it didn't. I mean, this request never fired up, and that's the reason the tests are failing. So whenever you toggle some buttons to update your preferences, there should be a post request that should go to the user API. And if I remember correctly, there are some changes or refactors in the user preferences API, where I think probably Pranav has renamed something. I mean, there is some renaming or refactoring going on in that area, and probably this might have been the reason here for the test be failing right now. So
Right, so
in all the two tests, yeah.
I'll ping Pranav.
Yeah. I think both of them are not the actual failure of test, but they just needs to be responded well, right? So whenever some changes in the UI or API happens, and there is some dependency on the test as well, like there needs to be checked on. And I think in the PR itself, it could have been there where it is showing like test is failing and still we merged it. So that's why we are getting this problem right now. Anyways, so we might Pranav and both of them are not on the call, so we might miss further inputs from them. But I mean, we can create two issues. Gaurav, would you help creating two issues and assigning the
Sure.
respective people?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. And this is about the UI end-to-end tests. By the way, I mean, the people that we just talked about, they are busy with some other stuff as well. Like they have a lot of things on their shoulder already. So anyone from you on the call. So if you really want to, see that test passing, you can just yeah. I mean, you can put your name, or you can. I mean, we are asking for help in this area, so you can show your interest in this area, in the Cypress. And I could
Yeah, hey,
assure you that Cypress is very easy to get
Right.
started on.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Actually, I want to call out Thibaut specifically as someone that might be interested in helping with these tests. Thibaut, have you worked with Cypress before?
Yeah, actually, last meeting I volunteered. The previous meeting, CIC meeting, I volunteered for
Oh.
that, and I started looking into it. So I used the Cypress for like a while, just a bit, but so I'm just kind of, increasing my knowledge and trying also to dive deeper into this issue. So yeah.
Nice.
So by the way, I was just telling like these CI calls, which are, I mean, you can, if you have any problems regarding tests and your environment or anything,
Okay.
like you can call out in these CI calls. We can debug together as well.
Okay, sure.
Ali, you were saying.
Yeah, so to Avi's point, I mean, like these meetings are, have about a third of the attendance that we have on most of the other meetings. And so in part because of that, it works out. It's kind of nice because it works out well to have these as something of a working session for us to collaboratively go through and either fix an item or create something. In this case, Pranav Singh, who just joined, is somewhat familiar with this particular area of the user preference failing. And so it might be that we can dig in now,
Yeah. So Pranav, since you are joining right now, I'm just giving you a bit of context what we were talking here. So there are four preferences tests that are failing, and it is expecting some request to be sent out by the UI, which is probably the API endpoint has been changed or the request is not being sent. I mean, either of the two situation is happening. So Can you tell whether you have renamed the API interfaces or changed something around users API?
Yes, I did updated the UI, but I did updated the APIs, but it was just in the remote provider, not in the Meshery server, because Meshery server internally proxies the request to remote provider through the capabilities. So any change done in capabilities shouldn't directly affect the Meshery.
Uh-huh.
Yes, but I can
So,
look into this. I think these were
okay.
like failing for quite some time. Like
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I think you can test out whether, I mean, in the current UI, these requests are even fired up, because as we said, like if there is no change in the UI, if there is no change in the API endpoints in the Meshery server, then probably there is some problem in the UI that has been introduced, and the requests are actually not being fired to update the preferences,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So yeah, if we can help.
Yes, I'll look into this one.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, so now we can move to integration test failures. And as far as I see, like there is only one test failing out of all that we have written, and that too from the same page. I mean, same failure reasons where when you're talking about end-to-end tests, and this is from the same page where we are doing some changes on the service meshes settings page, and since Azan has some changes in the UI, so it might be coming from there. So Gaurav, since you're creating the issue, I mean, you can attach the same this test as well in the same issue.
Yeah, sure.
So I hope you are creating two issues, one for user preferences and
One
other
for
for the legacy page.
legacy. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think we have these items covered today, and by the next meeting or by the next week, I mean, we would have some follow throughs or any or any kind of update on these tests, right? So I think we should expect it, because they are failing for quite a long time. So moving ahead, by the way, if anyone wants to volunteer on these any of these things, they can put their interest in the GitHub issues Gaurav is creating. Gaurav, if you mind,
I'll
you
share the
can,
link in
yeah,
chat.
thank you. Okay,
And I
so
think we also need Cypress end-to-end test for configurations like filters, designs, and applications. Previously, we were having a test for filters written, but we disabled it. I guess it was due to we switched to GraphQL subscriptions, right? If I remember correctly.
yes,
Yeah.
so mhm.
Yeah.
Next item in the list, 0.7 release readiness. And one of the, I mean, hurdle here is the failure in adapter compatibility tests. And they are failing for Meshery, STO, and Nginx, and like all the, I mean, bunch of different service meshes on the latest Kubernetes version. So who is going to talk about it? Like there is a question mark here.
Is this the test that Lee was talking about? That Cypress tests those are failing.
Okay, you just joined.
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
just
no.
sorry.
Yeah. No, that okay. I'm repeating it by the third time. So I think I mean, you can look on to these two tests that are failing for the service meshes, since you have made some changes in this area, and one in the UI integration test where something, I mean, same on the settings spec on the service mesh page, I think the same tests are failing, or the different test on the same page is failing. So if you know the reason in advance, like we can talk about it. Or if we don't know, like we can skip it and we can have an asynchronous communication over the
I'll-
GitHub issue that Gaurav is creating.
Yeah, and yeah, I think related to Azan's question, Lee also pointed out, I guess, some changes were made in the lifecycle or adapters page. A new switch was adding. If you could scroll down a bit. It was in end-to-end or integration, I guess.
Yeah, I'm on integration now and end-to-end test.
So you were showing one test, it was failing due to chip not found. Yeah, that this one. So
Yes, yes.
yeah. So Adan, is it related to the recent changes made in the adapters page?
I think so. Since like it's chip adapter location, I think it could be. But I'm not like entirely sure. Either way, like if this is the case, then I'll fix it.
Yeah, sure. We can investigate it later.
Thanks, Azan. So we were talking about v0.7 release readiness and failure of compatibility test. Lee, do you want to talk about it? I think yeah.
I think
we
majority
just
of
drop it.
times these tests fails because like the location of the CRD of these specific service message changes. So we have to manually change them into our in our workflow. And I did miss our Meshery dev call, but I saw it on the recording that like the actual reason for that is that we need to update the that workflow which runs these tests on the adapter. Like currently there is two workflows. One is there's one V2 version which we have to update in few adapters, which is not updated right. So that is one of the reason I think. I think I used to that task.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember who is assigned to it? I mean, since we talked about it in the previous development meeting.
Yeah, I think if I share my screen.
Okay.
So I think I used to the task of updating the workflow from the original adapters workflow to V2 version. Like if you go to Meshery, in our I have to look into this, but I have not looked into this for quite some time, but like I'm sure that's the reason. So yeah, so we have to actually like there are two test adapters. Basically, what this workflow does is that it installs Meshery, then it's install specific service mesh adapters. Then what it does is that uses those adapter to run to actually install the service mesh. Then it install few sample applications for each of those adapters. And then like what we do is that we have enforcement into our workflow. That is, we were checking for specific pods, whether they actually come up or not. So that's the only thing. And I think the recent we added a new adapters, this V2 version, and that is like to counteract few issues that we were facing in the original workflow. We just need to change this ref in all the each of these workflow for each of the adapters so that it start to refer to the latest version of the workflow. And then we have to just look for whether the enforcements are correct or not based on the new changes in CRDs. So that is what I think. Like anyone wants to add.
Okay. So, so you're saying like all these adapters needs to be updated with the references to the correct
Yes.
tests, right?
Yes. It
Yeah.
requires.
So some of them are already updated. For Meshery, Linkerd, Kuma, OSM, they are all passing. That means like they're pointing to the correct location, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's a very good first issue for someone who wants to take, contribute in adapters. They could just see how Meshery, Linkerd, and the PR is already there. which can act as a roadmap for making changes in the other adapters as well. And you can just make the changes, right?
Yeah.
So
Here
did we
we-
created any issue?
like, I'm not sure. I think Ayush might be opening. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. Ayush is on the call today.
Nope.
Okay. We are missing Ayush. Okay, then I think Gaurav, if you can ping Ayush, like
Yeah, I'm
what's
doing.
in the CI channel, I think it would be fine. And I think, yeah, that's not a lot of work as far as Pranav is sounding. So, okay, thanks for
In case
jumping.
even
Pranav.
after updating this, like we still see issues in our compatibility, then ideally we just need to check the logs and we have to see like
Uh-huh.
what's the thing which is missing in our enforcement, and then should be good. Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks for sharing, Pranav. Where is this? Okay, moving ahead to Anshu. I mean, Anshu has not joined this call, right? No, I don't think so. So we might skip over this. Is it some nickname or it's complete name? Like I didn't know that person. Sorry. Anyways, since there is no response, so moving back to Anirudh. Anirudh, do you have the setup ready now? Are you
Yeah,
able to
actually,
share?
I booted up again. Now I'm able to see mesh map. I'm able to see my cluster as well.
Okay, so everything is solved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good to hear it. So I think it could be successfully crossed off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So problem maybe I mean it could be a cache issue in the past, right?
Could
So
be synchronization, cache, could be anything.
yeah. Uh, next is create issues for failing use. Okay, that's to do that Gaurav has
Yeah, I've
started.
just shared the link of first issue. I'll just quickly share the link of second issue.
Okay. With this, I think we have everything covered up for today, and we didn't have any standing agenda item from the previous week as well. So we are good to wrap up, right? Do you have any questions? Or if you want to volunteer on any of these issues, you can since these respective for these respective issues there is a different I mean respective GitHub issue is being created, so you can just show your attention there or yeah, show your interest there. So with this I think Mario just joined. Anyways, we are missing you, Mario. So we just talked about all the failing test in UI and all the UI integration and end-to-end failing test, and I think we got everything covered up from your side as well.
So cool. Yeah, thank you. So should we still investigate, or there's some items to do that?
I think
Issues
we
in GitHub.
investigated on the call. So there are
Okay,
some
got
changes
it.
in the UI that has been done. So all these things, all these changes have not reflected in the tests. So that was the problem for the failing test.
Awesome.
So since we
Thank you. Let me know if
have
there's
these
anything
issues.
we can do to improve the feedback that the test give, so we can kind of like identify when it's an application problem or not. But
Yeah.
yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then I think we should call it a wrap, and thanks everyone for joining today's call. I will meet next week on this same time.
Sorry to interrupt, but was there any issue like I was pinged by Gaurav?
Okay, yeah, I
Okay.
just joined.
Ayush. So, okay, we can cover this item quickly. This compatibility metrics test, I think we discussed it in the previous development call, and you are assigned to it. So did you find any, I mean, did you have, do you have any progress, or do you find any problem implementing this?
I was not assigned to this issue. Like I was assigned to two issues. Like one was writing some custom definitions files for is2 adapter and failing the lint test in another adapter. There was another issue like which was like updating the reference to the correct workflow for version
Yeah.
2. But I wasn't assigned to it. Someone else is working on it.
Okay. So we might have mistaken it on to you. So yeah, so the third issue is what we are talking about here. So referencing the correct workflow file, and that's where these all test failures are coming from. So
Okay, I will
okay,
open
that's
issues
fine.
for it. I'll open issues for it.
Yeah. Thanks. So okay, I think yeah, we can again call it a wrap, and thanks everyone for joining. We'll meet you all next week. Like I'm repeating myself, but thanks.